Right. It's a second line day, and we are in gate 4, the gate of youthful folly. I wanted to show you these sweet peas, which are growing in our garden, and they just smell absolutely divine. They're one of my favorite flowers, and I just love them, and the smell is amazing. So I just wanted to show you what I've got sitting on my desk as I talk to you about the second line of acceptance in gate 4, the gate of formalization. There's a lifetime learning here that says the recognition of limitation in oneself and others leads to tolerance and the suspension of judgment. So the 4-2, they don't know that they have an answer to anything. No, and actually they don't care, because they're just going about their own business. They're not spending their whole day just waiting to give somebody an answer. They don't even know what the question could possibly be. It's other people who then come up and think, oh, they must have an answer. It's other people who are going to knock on their window and disturb them and ask them directions to some strange boutique in some street they've probably never heard of. I don't know where that came from. Ra frequently mentioned the importance of education for our second lines. And when you look at the gates in the mental structure, the head and the ajna, then it is even more important, particularly for young people. They need to know what is likely to be called out of them, what they are unconsciously projecting out. So it's very important for them to be students. And it will be very important for them through their whole life to get a good education in one thing or another, because they have the minds for it after all. So in the exaltation, we have the glorification of feelings, the mother who always pardons the errant child, the potential to recognize that not everyone can understand. So the Chinese, they called this gate a youthful folly in the original I Ching. And we get a flavor of that here with the mother who always pardons the errant child. And these second line hermit types, they live in their own world. And so the way in which they formulate an answer might not always connect. This is lower trigram after all. They don't know who or what is on the other side. They don't really know what questions the collective wants answered. And they see right away that others don't necessarily understand what they don't even have to think about. So say that somebody calls out a 4-2 for an answer. They ask them something that this particular 4-2 has never really thought about before. But they come up with an answer because that's what the fourth gate does. And the other person, they just don't understand how they got there. And they don't understand the answer necessarily either. So the 4-2 child at school, they can be forever being asked by the teacher for an answer. And they don't necessarily like it because they might not have any idea at all what they're going to be asked and no idea whether they're going to be able to answer it. It can be very stressful for children who have this and who don't understand the mechanic of it, which of course is most of them. And it takes time for them to learn that they have this gift. So in the detriment, we have the assertion of the ego at the expense of others' failure, the potential to take advantage of the lack of understanding in others. So the 4-2, they understand things without having to work at it too hard. They're a natural, although it's quite limited because they avoid having to learn new things. But they have this gift that once they're called out, they're very good at learning and understanding. And then they discover that other people are not so good. When you have someone who is projecting out their answer, but is not aware of the timing, then the people they're projecting their answer to are not going to understand that answer. They're not ready for it. So it might not be the right time, or it might not be the right place. And because of that, they have a sense of, oh, nobody understands me. Why don't they understand me? And there might even be a sense of, well, maybe they'll understand me one day, poor things. I just have to be patient with them. Instead of realizing that it's them themselves who are offering the answers at the wrong time. The grounding comes in the 49 line 2, and it's called The Last Resort. And this is the title of a wonderful song by the Eagles. It's one of my favorite songs. I love this song. I've got a feeling, actually, I ought to remember it. Maybe I shouldn't say this. There was oh no, that was another one. I was thinking of the song that my husband and I danced to at our wedding, but it wasn't The Last Resort, I don't think. I should move on before I get in trouble. But it's worth listening to. It's a fantastic song. Anyway, as to how it relates to the acceptance in the 4-2, how it grounds acceptance, I'm not completely sure about this one, I have to say. I contemplated it for some time, and what I came to is one interpretation. It's my interpretation. Ra didn't really give any guidance on the earth grounding the sun. He didn't talk about it in terms of the specific gates. He talks about it often with maybe the incarnation cross, but not as going through it with the individual lines. So all of these grounding interpretations I'm giving are my own. And I know from comments that I've had from you that they do seem to resonate a lot, which is great. And very often there are other things that resonate, which is also wonderful because it's your experience. I haven't got the 4-2. I've got the 4-4. I haven't got the 4-2. So I don't really understand how there could be a possibility of it grounding. And it's also not my sun and earth configuration. So that's a slightly different thing as well. Having it as a standalone gate, well, it doesn't have the grounding in the same way. It doesn't need the grounding in the same way. It's when it's in the sun gate that it needs to have that sort of extra grounding element to it. So this is all sort of part of our journey, part of our experience. So how does it feel if you've got this 4-2 and it is in your sun and you do have the grounding in the 49-2? So this is what I came up with anyway, as my interpretation of it, is that acceptance is often viewed as a last resort. It's often seen as giving up somehow. We're giving up something, we're accepting that this is how it is, we're sacrificing something, perhaps, gate 49. And this can come with a heaviness, with maybe a despair. We accept because, well, what else can we do? And actually, gate 49 is a gate of acceptance or rejection. So it does fit in that there should be this grounding of the fourth gate in the second line of acceptance. So I don't know. We accept. Yeah, often we accept because we're in a rock and a hard place. Yeah. Yeah. I have blackbirds who are not accepting the lack of sultanas at the moment. Their own personal revolution if I'm not careful. Yeah, we approach acceptance. I mean, it's a really big part of a lot of people's spiritual journey, isn't it? That sort of acceptance, and it often comes with that heaviness of there's nothing else I can do. So possibly then it's looking at acceptance in a slightly different light. It's framing it differently. It's making it, instead of a heavy choicelessness, it's a joyful choicelessness. It's the last resort. It's a kind of what else can we do? But when it comes with that joy underlying it, then there's an empowering in it. You're not a victim to this choicelessness, to this last resort. So perhaps the last resort in this context could be the acceptance of choicelessness. The moon is still in gate 1, the creative, in the G center, the gate of self-expression. And we still, of course, have the channel with Uranus in gate 8, the design of the creative role model. The channel with a mission to be uniquely and creatively different from everyone else, I suppose, or from how you were last week. Just be different every day. The moon is going into 43, more individuality. We have this sort of the gate 1. We have this individual journey that the moon goes on, because you start to see the patterns, don't you, when you're going through it in this way. So we have the one that goes up to the 43 at 1318, and this is called breakthrough. This is the gate of insight. It's the unique perception, unique being a key word for individuality, but it's a unique perception that can be the result of sudden insights. There's a constant process of structuring these insights in order that it can be formulated and put out to the world, to the collective eventually, in through the throat. But the 43 is not a throat gate, it's an ajna gate, so it needs some sort of connection to get it down to the throat. Otherwise, it just stays as a mental concept. And then we stay with individuality as we move into gate 14 at just after midnight. And this is possession in great measure. This is that wonderful image of the cart that is piled high with material possessions. This is the gate of power skills. It's a sacral gate. It's about accumulation and retention of power through skilled interaction. It's a deeply material gate, it's supplying the entire energy for the material way because it comes up from the sacral and it pushes up into gate 2, which is the, maybe I shouldn't do that quite like that. Yeah, I think there's some strange energies around today. And it is, yeah, that's it. I think I should stop there, shouldn't I? Gate 14 is very powerful and it's very beautiful, and isn't it a lovely day? I'm going to just sit here and smell my sweet peas, and I shall wish you well and see you tomorrow for a third line day. And go gently, enjoy your life, have fun.